Hey everyone, this is Brett Apley and welcome to the Daily Fantasy MMA channel. If you're interested in full DraftKings breakdowns, projections, expert rankings, bets, and a whole lot more, you can find that in our MMA premium content in the Roto-Grinders marketplace. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Brett Apley for all the latest news and developments in regard to the content, and please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It's very much appreciated. What's up, everyone? Welcome to a special edition of the Daily Fantasy MMA podcast. My name is Brett Apley. Most of you guys know me as BB Bomb, and I am here with my good pal Mike Brown, better known as H3 Buddha. Mike, how's it going today?
Pretty good. Had a nice weekend. It was my mom's birthday this weekend. Might have to chalk it up to some mom luck, but yeah, great weekend. Pretty good. Doing pretty good.
We will get into your weekend in a second. For those who don't know Mike, he's not often on this channel, but he has been co-hosting the Daily Fantasy MMA podcast on the Roto-Grinders channel with me for probably a year or so. An excellent mind, one of the truly the best players in the game, and coming off a 5-figure win at UFC Singapore, $10,000, the goal that many players strive to achieve for $10,000 in one night. And I thought it would be good to bring him on, talk a little bit about his process, talk about his lineup. And, we've been breaking down fights for a long time. And I think this is something we're going to push, but this is not a goal that I want people to feel like is so unattainable. If you can manage your bankroll well, if you can come up with a process and stick to it and improve upon it, you're consistent. This is, you can win big money in this game. This is a beatable game. There is a big skill element to it, and so why not talk to one of the best, the most skilled players in the game? So, Mike, first of all, congratulations on the big score. I know it's not your first. Tell me what contest did you take down this weekend?
As far as I remember, I think I got the 150, which is named I don't even know the contest name.
Triangle?
Triangle. So I took down the 150. Took down a numerous, I think the $50 single entry. I'm not sure if I was in the 100 or not. I like to diversify. We'll get into that in a little bit. So I took down a few smaller single entries. And then I had 2 qualifiers that I took outright, I think 129. And then in another 129, I split. One splits 2-way, one splits 3-way. And you can only actually win 3 seats to the event. So it's going to be interesting to see how that actually plays out, because I know that I will get cash value, which is good. Thank God. When I saw that, I was like, oh, no, I just lost $1,500 in equity if I bank the other one.
Yeah, so you've already locked up 2 seats. I forget what it's called now. Fight. It's not fight to the finish. Fight.
Knockout
King. Knockout King. Right.
Knockout.
You've locked up 2 seats already. Tied for 2 more, and I know you've qualified for these types of tournaments in the past. Does it feel good to get it out of the way early?
Yeah, when I won the qualifier for New York City, the live qualifier, I was the first one ever to win. And that meant a lot to me, just being the first one to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there's always one person. We're going to get into it on this one, I'm sure. There's always one fighter that's going to live with you. And for that live final, it was Nate Marquardt.
Wow.
He had a knockout in that one, and that was one of those shocking ones we didn't see coming. If I'm not mistaken, was it Marquardt versus Dalloway, I think, and he knocked Dalloway out. And everyone was on Dalloway, so it was kind of a leverage play. And we'll get into who that fighter was in a little bit. But yeah, it's awesome to lock it up early. I chase these things because I want to be the best. I mean, I think if you're in this game, you strive to be the best. So that's where I am. It's awesome to get them out early. Like I said, if I get that third early, whew.
Well, I know you're in a tiebreaker with Sun Tzu for one of them,
yeah.
And one of our subscribers as well. So, I mean, best of luck to you. But it's going to be tough. It's tough to earn that 3rd seat, even though you're in a tiebreaker, I think.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And like I say, I'm in 2 tiebreakers, so it's it adds even more of a wrinkle into things because I can go 2 different ways. I can almost hedge against myself.
Well, let's. I'm looking at this tweet you sent out on June 23rd, the day of the fight, and you said when your cash goes off, 2 qualifier tickets tied for 2 as well, triangle win and many smaller GPP wins. And so what strikes me looking at this tweet and seeing your $10,000 win is that, you know, the vast majority of it, majority of it came from one lineup, and that lineup was your cash lineup. And you and I have very different processes for building cash lineups because I personally love to stack. Pretty much anyone who watches this channel knows that I stack in cash. And so I'm not one to throw my cash lineup into these qualifiers, into big tournaments, because you need 6 wins to take it down generally. And I build my tournament lineups different. So I guess my big question to you is, like, what is your process with cash lineups, and like, why do you throw them in these top heavy tournaments?
Well, like you said, we are very different when it comes to cash. We've known this for a while behind the scenes. We've gone back and forth, and something that I do is I like to maximize my cash line. I look for what is an optimal cash line that I would think is optimal to me. Optimal for me is looking for the highest upside I can get, and I want it to be, if I'm playing a dog, I want that dog to have first round finish potential. Like, I don't want, if I years ago I was trying to do, like, you know, target these flyweight fights, right? Get these 3 rounds, get the points. That's not going to get you anywhere. Sure, you're going to get maybe 25, 35 points in a loss. What's that going to do for you? Yeah, you might main events, you know, totally different story. I mean, I'm talking, you know, 3 rounds of flyweights or women's fights sometimes that would have action. Now, like I said, what I like to do is I like to look for what I call as optimal. So when I'm looking at punt plays, I want punts that will get big points and have the potential. So I've preached it on our podcast on Roto Grinders enough.
Mm-hmm.
I target fights with action. If there's going to be action, or if there's a -1.5, minus juiced 1.5, I target that because they know it's going to be high paced.
That's very interesting. And I'm looking at your winning lineup right now, and let's break it down, because the 2 studs that you played, Ulka Sasaki, who scored 134, and Song Kenan, who scored 96, both finished inside the distance. Those were 2 of my heavier tournament plays. But again, this is your cash lineup. Why did you choose to go with those 2 studs over, again, guys like Matthews, guys like Peter Yan, who had upside but were, you know, far safer, had -500 lines to win? Why did you choose to go with more guys less likely to win? Is it simply just because of the upside here?
Yeah. So here's my thinking behind the 2 upper tier guys, Kenan and Sasaki. Sasaki seemed a little bit straightforward to me. His path of victory was grappling heavy based, and let's just call it how it is. Lauza sucks. I mean, that one seemed pretty slam dunk. I mean, he was pretty high owned everywhere, anyways. Kenan, that was more targeting the layoff. I often say that we like to look at fights, or I like to look at fights that seem to be like a setup. UFC is trying to make a push for somebody, right? Kenan has power in his hands. We knew that. And he could have easily gotten a first round knockout too. But, like, you know, he got this weird, that swipe of the eye where he, like, you know, got his eyelid. And I was like, maybe that's a punch. And I was like, maybe I was good. You know, sometimes you get a little results oriented, right? You look and you're like, wow, he's getting damage. Oh, but then you look and, oh, I was actually, you know, it was a fingernail that, like, cut his eye. So I was looking at that, looking for a fast finish in Kenan. And that's what I like. I want to get those points, because racking up the points is the idea here. If you can get the points fast, that's what I want. And if I'm not mistaken, Kenan was what, like -270. So at his price,
yeah, it closed at -290. So still a solid favorite.
And think about it, right? It allows me to have like $300 extra to spend elsewhere, right?
Right. And go ahead.
Yeah. So that's how I was looking at this one, and So again, Sasaki was a slam dunk. I think that was just an obvious play. I don't know if I really need to break that one down.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And you did have one fighter from the main event, Leon Edwards. You didn't have Donald Cerrone, which I don't think is really a big deal. How important is the main event to you in your cash lineup and in tournament lineups? Because for me, sometimes I struggle with, I guess, I'm often 100% all in on the main event, and usually that works, but sometimes it doesn't. What is your approach to the main event in your cash lineups and in tournaments as well?
Cash lineups have to have a piece. That's just a must for me every time. I know you're in team stack, so it really depends. I mean, I look at this action, right? I keep preaching it. I think it does this fight 4.5 or 3.5. So they thought it was going to go the distance, right? They could kinda.
The over on 2.5 was -110. Edwards had pretty strong inside the distance numbers. I think it was -110 for Edwards inside the distance, which I'm assuming contributed to your play.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I actually on this week saw some people that just had naked Cerrones in tournaments, and they placed well because all that salary was able to be allocated up top. So there's different ways to make lineups, and this particular card, you know, the price 8,600 for a main event piece is amazing. And let's look at it. I mean, 84 significant strikes and a win by decision. 72 points is not a lot of points in the main event. Typically, you want like 100. So I mean, he didn't technically make value, but he got the win, which was most important. Tournaments wise, I don't always start with them. I still make my tournaments by hand. I don't know. Would you like me to get into that now or later?
Yeah, sure.
So I make all my tournament lineups by hand. I will make them throughout the week, and then I will wait until weigh-ins, make sure everybody weighs in fine. If there's any questions, I'll wait until those are resolved, and then I'll start hand entering them in. Makes me just know what I'm doing. Ownerships, I can make the hedge stacks when I need to, or hedge equity when I need to on each side. Makes it neat for me. But I don't always click the main event in my tournament fights. It's sometimes I'll be targeting a grappling based lineup, and I'll just try to fill grappling. And then what I'll do is I'll look at maybe a slam dunk knockout, right? Maybe it might not be the main event, but I know that there's going to be a knockout. So maybe I'll do that. So it really, really, really comes down to the card. You've got to look at the card as a whole and see where your spots are and where you can pick and choose them.
Makes sense. Let's look at your two plays that were well below the mid-range. Song Yadong was 7.9, I think, and Yan Jianan 7.4K. Yadong definitely makes sense to me. I believe he closed as a favorite and had fairly strong inside the distance numbers. Was value a big part of the reason why you chose those two? And also for Jianan, I know you mentioned a dog with great inside the distance numbers. She didn't have that, but her odds were pretty strong for her price. So again, is it value based selections there?
Yeah, value-based. Yan was slam dunk because I thought it was going to be Xing. You know, it was a free square, right? I thought everybody else was going to play her. I needed to get her in there just in case she had that upside, you know, of some 100 points. Or I don't really think she had a 100-point upside. I think that she had maybe like an 85% or 85-point upside. But Yan strikes at 5 significant strikes, 5.5 significant strikes per minute. Pereira absorbed 4.5. So I mean, that's math right there. I mean, I'm looking at that, and that's sample size. That's not like, you know, 1-2 fight sample sizes. It may be 2 sizes for Yan, but I knew that there was output.
Let me ask you this, because you've mentioned you've mentioned some narrative based factors, and now you've mentioned some, you know, statistics driven factors. And you know, I'm very reliant on the numbers. Some people hate the numbers. Are very reliant on narrative based. Would you say you're somewhere in the middle there?
I am in the middle, and I'm coming around more to the numbers than I used to be. And my results are showing for themselves now. So like maybe there is something to it. And I think MMA has taken a while to evolve as a game. We haven't really had the numbers, but UFC page now has the stats that you can kind of look at and compare. You have Fight Metric page, which is a nice page to go to as well. Yeah, I almost say Fight Metric is our what is it, Fangraphs for baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where anybody that's playing DFS should be going, is the Fight Metric and just kind of taking a peek and seeing what you got there. If you want to go to Yadong, that play was interesting because I saw a lot of people late going towards Arantes. In a cash game, I'm not going to factor in ownership. Again, I'm looking for upside. I thought Arantes was not going to look good on the feet. I just didn't think he had a lot to offer on the feet. And if he keeps pulling guard, you could get some takedown points like we saw, or knockdown points. Definitely didn't see the finish happening like that. I'm sure you didn't either. That was a vicious elbow, right? And
yeah, it was a good performance.
It really was. It was dominant too. I just figured, I take into consideration the alpha male camp. I thought that he would come in with a great game plan. And same type of thing there, 3.3 significant strikes, and Arantes was absorbing 2.5. And again, he's a veteran, I guess you could say, at this stage, right? So
yeah,
there was a sample size there.
Let's.
The advances were crazy. I didn't think he would get advances. That's the thing that was kind of, I guess you would say, luck based. I guess a knockdown. I figured there would be a knockdown, or there'd be some type of power in the fight.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think a 100-point score is shocking from Yadong. Again, Arantes coming off a fight where he was knocked down 4 times. I agree. The advances were a bit surprising, but the end result wasn't too shocking. I don't think there was a chance that Yadong could put up a big score. So, and that was one of my heavier plays on the entire card. I actually built this lineup that won you all this money. I played it in the $8. Never in a million years would I have considered it in cash games, and I'll tell you why. And it's the final piece we haven't talked about. OSP. If you had showed me your lineup beforehand and said, I'm playing OSP in cash, I would have said you're an idiot.
Yep. You still do.
No, I would have said no offense. Well, I can't say you're an idiot now. You took all the money that I put in, and it's in your pocket right now. Why did you end up making the decision to go Oven St. Preux? Because I know, let me just read off the numbers. He closed plus 145 inside that was actually Pedro. He closed plus 290 inside the distance. Earlier in the week, he was higher up, but still only plus 125 as the underdog. In theory, we know he's a high upside play, but obviously the floor is 0. So how did you come about having Oven St. Preux in this lineup?
Yeah, it's funny. I never thought I would land on him in cash. Again, like you said, no floor. But on this, I'm always card dependent. You got to look at the whole card, top to bottom, and figure out who's got the upside. So I consciously took OSP. I paid up to like that middle tier for a higher inside the distance, right? Because on this card, there was no inside the distance that was like, crazy good below maybe 79. You're done, right? I mean, so I consciously said, I'm going to pay up to try to get an inside the distance that made sense. Now, to back this point up from taking OSP, I did think Pedro was a little bit overrated. I think he was facing bums. I alluded to it on the podcast. I said he's a gatekeeper, but this is it was a massive step up. I think I said that 2 or 3 times on the podcast. It was more about Pedro, a fade on Pedro, because we know the OSP is chinny. But I figured on this card, if I could get a finish, and again, 1.5 rounds, Brett, what was the
It was, the over on 1.5 was minus 125. Fight ends in a finish minus 205, so pretty likely to end inside the distance.
So, like I was saying earlier, I paid up thinking I'm targeting a fight that's going to have action. I think Pedro is exposable. I think he had gaps in his game. It was ballsy. I know it was ballsy, but that's what I want to do with a dog. And at 8K, to me, he was still a dog, right? I mean, right. I'll tell you how I started the lineup. I started the lineup with Edwards, Sasaki, Yan. and then built from there. I mean, I knew that Yadong made a lot of sense after looking at the odds and whatnot. But then when I ended up on OSP, I said, I'm paying up for a potential inside the distance and with an action fight. God, I was scared, but after he won, I was straight up doing the OSP.
Yeah, I'm sure you were doing that after
so,
the Woods fight too.
But that's why. So, like, there's different strokes for different folks, right? I mean, you would never in a million years tackle him. So I played for instance, I played the $5 double up, and I rarely play that because I don't like the rake. But that's a different story. So I think I maxed it because I liked my lineup. OSP was owned 5%. I think there was only one other. I think I might have had all the ownership on OSP in the double up, and the double up had like 100 to 200 people in it. So I mean, there was a decent amount of people, and I was the only one. I honestly think I was the only one. Maybe one other person had him, and that's just showing you how like ballsy I am. That's just the way I am. If I want to win, I'm going to win it all, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm sure you're going to transition into it, but that's my thinking, game selection wise.
Well, yeah, and again, just to rewind back to the original point, that you don't have to. There is no one process that you have to use that is going to work for every single person. And that's why some people ask me, hey, how many lineups should I make? Well, I have no idea. I don't know what your bankroll is. I don't know what your strengths are and certain, like, I don't know what your goals are. You and I have very different processes. Your results are proven. Mine are proven in different ways, but I think it's super important to find a process that works for you, works for your strengths, improve upon it. Bankroll management is key, and so I guess let's just end with this. Like, if you're, again, I'm sure there's a certain percentage of people watching this who have big bankrolls, can play the $5,300 tournament, and maybe $10,000 isn't a big deal to them, but there's a big percentage of people watching who don't have huge bankrolls, and so I guess what would your advice be to those types of players in general, and any other points you want to make?
Yeah, so I think game selection is massive. You've got to play the single entries. Those are your tournaments that you're going to have fun and like be able to try different things. All right, stay within your means for bankroll, or just even if you're not a multi-entry person, try the quarter for 20 entries, right? That's the maximum in that particular contest. Try it. Try different things. Try different iterations of the same lineup. Make a core, right? Make 2 or 3 fighters you like. Build off of those. Build different styles of lineups. However you want to do it, you can definitely do it. But know that doing that, you can grind out potentially some money doing that. I mean, I know people that have started at the quarter. I know people that have started at the dollar, and they're just easily grinding their way up. That's why I always preach. Stay within your means, but you got to find what you can handle. Like, mine, I look for the big win. I put it in single entry. So my cash lineup, I'll just go through it quickly again. I put it in single entries, the max, all the cash lineups. And obviously like the GPPs, like I slam it into everything. But when I'm making GPPs, the style that I make, I still make them, hand make them. I might make, like, for instance, last week I made 55, I believe, lineups in the $8. That might change week to week. I might be more comfortable with cash. I might not be. And I would have called this like a small week too, just, to throw it out there. I mean, this was a week where I just wanted some action to wake up to, right? Right. I mean, that's how it was. But I still woke up at 4 in the morning just to double check, and then I went back to bed. Like, I woke up around 10, and right before like OSP. So that was awesome. But it's all about trying new things. I got to say, that's really, really important. But find what makes you comfortable. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Also diversify. Just if you're gonna play tournaments, try to diversify. When I say diversify, that's playing $1, multiple $1, or the $3, the $8, whatever the case may be. Just try different things like that, because it really does. It takes one bullet. I mean, I think the cash lineup I had was like, in the 50th place or something in the $8. I mean, there was a few iterations that were better because of Shane Young, but
right.
I love the game because it's game theory, right? That's what makes me keep coming back. Is this card was tricky, and like I said, I said if I pay up the OSP, it gives me a potential to have something to set me apart and big points. I want to rack up as much points as I possibly can fast. That's what I like, and that's what fits me.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that's all great advice, and I really appreciate you coming on here to break down your lineup. You didn't have to do that. Congratulations again on the big score, and hopefully you don't win it again too soon. I'd like to take my crack at the 5-figure score, but congratulations, and I guess we'll be seeing you in a couple weeks for the UFC 226 podcast, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The tough card is right before it. I'm hoping you're gonna have your content. You're gonna have your work going crazy here. I hope you got an early start on it because there's a lot of fights to break down, buddy.
That's right. The tough finale and UFC 226 in a couple weeks. All right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something from it. Thank you for watching. Make sure to follow Mike on Twitter at H3Buddha. I'm on Twitter at Brett Apley. We will see you for Fight Week. Peace.